Maybe tomorrow is a better day. The Lysambrian Jotun have quit Segura. After the winter solstice, the Black Thorns march north to Meeren, and the Quiet Steppe joins the Redwind Corsairs and the Winter Sun in their campaign to liberate Segura. Even as the armies regroup and begin their advance towards Anduz, the Orcs are already on the move. Their defensive positions around the old town are abandoned. The gates of Anduz stand open to welcome the Imperial soldiers. Bells are ringing. People cheer. The Lysambrian Jotun are already crossing the border back into the hills of Rhinos. According to the free people of Anduz, the Lysambrian Jotun began preparations to move during the winter solstice. As soon as news reached them from the north that Imperial heroes had been repulsed and their excavations at the Qaeda had proved fruitful, the freeborn described the Orcs as being filled with a sense of triumphant glee, of victorious passion to match that of the Kohan almost. Whatever they recovered from the Qaeda, they were gone from Anduz in less than a week. While the Winter Sun were beginning their steady advance across the plains of Anduz Jazi, the Orcs were stripping Anduz and the surrounding villages of every scrap of food and every bottle of wine, and paying well below market price for the both. Whilst the Quiet Steppe were smearing blade venom on their spears, and the handful of heralds of the Spider King that accompanied them were scuttling through the long grasses, the Lysambrians were breaking their camps. While the Redwind Corsairs were making their first daring raid north, the Orcs... Actually, in this regard, the Empire steals a march on the Lysambrians. The main body of the freeborn army moves too slowly, but the advance forces of the Redwind Corsairs move faster than the Lysambrian Jotun can, cutting into the Hiero supply lines like hot knives into soft butter. There is some limited fighting, as the armoured Hiero defend themselves against the swift freeborn Kohan. Wagons are seized, a few prisoners taken. They confirm what other Imperial armies have just discovered. The Lysambrian Jotun are done with Segura for the moment. They have what they came for, relics of the ancient Lysambrian ancestors carved out from the dry soil, mementos of the time when the arid plains of the Brass Coast belonged to the four great families, before the human invaders drove them west and south into the hills. It seems inconceivable that the Jotun would countenance an invasion of Segura merely to support Lysambrian scholarship. Indeed, the prisoners make no bones about the fact that they had every intention of staying if possible, but knew that the odds were stacked against them. Yet courage, ambition, and the wisdom-driven need to know about their roots gave them the fire they needed to forge their own path, with little more than token support from the other Jotun. The Lysambrian Godi are wise enough to see the shape of the future when it's staring them dead in the face. While they could, perhaps, hold on to Anduz, there is little chance that the three families, the Hiero, the Corazon, and the new founding siblings in the Escuta, could do anything more than delay the inevitable. Not this time. So, they are leaving. But they will be back. One day, they will be back. One day, the Brass Coast will be gone, and only Lysambria will remain. One day. Take control. The Lysambrian Jotun do not go far. While the Imperial armies are making sure there are no barbarians left in Segura in the wake of their retreat, the Hiero, Corazon, and Escuta re-emerge from the western hills and into Karaman. Almost before anyone realizes that they're there, they are halfway towards securing a beachhead in the Cinnabar Hills. In the past, when the Jotun have attacked Karaman, they have gone straight for Serra da Mata and the Dalmatian cliffs. This time, their strategy is a little different. Perhaps because the Lysambrian Jotun are less concerned about fighting in woodlands, they emerge through the scrubby trees of Eastern Gambit, avoiding the hills and the mountains altogether. They are not alone either. As the first Corazon raids began to hit the caravans bringing mithril and white granite down out of the hills, the first stories of humans fighting alongside the Lysambrians begin to perlocate through. It takes only a little time for the facts to emerge. It seems that while the Jotun forces in Bragisland have been on the defensive, the Yagara of the Mournald under Stephen of Sarcombe, have come south, via Jotun territory, to fight alongside the Curzon. They seem to make a good match for the Orcs. Their familiarity with the virtues makes them arguably a better fit for fighting with the Lasumbrian Jotun than it does with the Orcs of the Narkist or Kalsi. The presence of the human auxiliaries is not the only thing that has changed about the Lasumbrian Jotun in the weeks since they left Segura. There is a new intensity to them. Their conquest seems fueled by something that goes beyond the zeal that was granted to them by their adoption of the virtues. The Curzon seem more daring in their raids, more ambitious than ever before. The Hierro seem more implacable, more driven. The shamans of the Escuta, now looking even more like Lasumbrian Jotun and less like the people of Narkist, seem possessed of some sort of mystic insight into the strategies of their opponents. Whatever they brought into the hills, whatever relics they've uncovered, are changing the Lasumbrians, or perhaps merely accelerating the process of change put into motion when the Hierro, battered and broken, were granted a short-lived sanctuary in the Brass Coast. Some things have not changed. They still offer any freeborn they encounter their version of the Jotun choice: join the Lasumbrians, keep your land and your possessions, but agree to accept the conquerors as your rulers, swearing an oath of loyalty and offering a portion of your wealth each season, or simply leave, with nothing save the clothes on your backs, a few sentimental keepsakes, and as much food as you can carry. Loyalty or exile, with death reserved only for those courageous few who refuse to choose either way. Western Gambit is not well populated, but a slow trickle of exiles begins to flow east into Rahota, and from there down the wide roads into Madruga. As always when the Jotun launch an assault on Karaman, the only thing that stands between the Lasumbrians and a complete conquest of Gambit is the garrison at Braden's Yassi. They are quick to rally, and then they make the long slog march south and west to engage the Orcs and their allies. There is a usual level of grumbling, and some talk of how the Cinnabar roads might have made the task of defending the entire territory a little easier. Yet for all the grumbling, the garrison nonetheless make that long march and engage with the invaders, slowing their advance and buying time for the Empire to rally its defence. The Jotun have tried to claim Karaman before, and will no doubt try again. Indeed, they wrote their intentions on the walls of Damata: "We came, we shall come again." Yet each time, the Empire has driven them back out to the Cinnabar Hills again. It remains to be seen if this change of tactics, if this decision to begin in Gambit rather than the hills of Damata, will disrupt the pattern. Game information. The barbarians have left Segura. The Imperial forces have liberated Anduz, and the whole territory is now in freeborn hands once again. The Lasumbrian Jotun have invaded Karaman. The Curzon have launched probing raids against the caravans from the Damatian hills and from the great mines of Briante. They have not had an impact yet, but if they remain in the territory for another season, they will reduce the amount of white granite and mithril provided to the imperial titles that are associated with them. On the Ryota Road. Battle opportunity. About a week before the spring equinox, messengers from Fort Braden garrison send a worrying report. The Curzon have pulled most of their raiders back from the halls of Serra Damata and Serra Briante, and have joined up with the advanced scouts of the Escuta and the Hierro. They are camped on the grasslands southwest of the town of Ryota, the only major settlement in the whole of Gambit. The town is known for its prognosticators and its seers, and sits on the main road that runs down out of Sierra de Mata towards Madruga. Most caravans that supply de Mata and Briante pass through Ryota, as do caravans bringing valuable Bourse materials south from the hills. While those caravans could find alternate routes through the highlands, such disruption could potentially cause serious problems for the workers at the cliffs and at the great mines. More importantly, if Ryota falls into the hands of the Lasumbrian Jotun, it will mean that they have a base of operations from which to complete their conquest of Gambit. In the great scheme of things, this will be unfortunate, but will still leave Karaman in freeborn hands. It will, however, represent a beachhead into Karaman, making it significantly easier for them to conquer more of the territory in the coming months. Some of the seers of Riota claim that if their town falls to the Lasumbrian Jotun, then by the time of the summer solstice, all of southern Karaman will be in Orc hands. One does not need to be a prophet to see such obvious outcomes, but these divinations are beginning to send ripples of uncertainty throughout the entire territory. The final report from Karaman before the equinox indicates that it is not the Orcs that are leading the way towards Riota. Stephen of Sarcombe's Yagara are in the vanguard, and by quite a distance. It seems almost as if the Orcs are giving the humans the first go at Riota. There are a few Lasumbrian Jotun with them, but the main bulk of the force closing in on the freeborn town are humans. If they reach the town, they will almost certainly be able to overcome the exhausted soldiers of Fort Braden. Riota will fall in short order, and Gambit will fall with it. Even if Imperial armies do move into Karaman to face the Lasumbrian Jotun, they will not be in time to stop the Orcs consolidating their control of Gambit and securing their beachhead. Furthermore, with the main road into Serra d'Amata and Serra Brianta in the hands of the invaders, it will be significantly easier for the Corazon to raid the Dalmatian cliffs and the great mine of Brianta. Should Riota fall, the Orcs will gain the ability to intercept the caravans of precious white granite and mithril during the coming campaign season. The civil service have confirmed a major conjunction at the Sentinel Gate that leads to the grasslands on the Riota Road on the Saturday morning, a chance to intercept the Yagara and their Lasumbrian Jotun allies before they can reach the town and potentially turn aside their lightning raid.